Hi, Steve Cooper, Rank Success, and this is a short video just to get you thinking about the role of inspector. I recently did a podcast on it, so you may want to listen to that as well, because I'll probably cover things differently, and I'll cover some broad issues in this one about just triggering some thought and some ideas and provoking some thinking around the role of inspector if you are aspiring to that role. Now, as you can see, I'm on the road at the moment, but I just wanted to get this my thoughts down about this particular video on the back of the podcast which I did yesterday or the day before, and I wanted to just focus in on those of you that are aspiring for the role of inspector to do the thinking that's required now, when you don't have to, so that you can be your best on the day when you need to. And the role of inspector might seem really easy to you, but when I have a conversation with aspiring candidates that contact me, they often say to me, when I ask them the question, could you tell me what the role of inspector is, we get about 5, 10, 15 seconds and then there's a dry up. People have to think it through, and that's the whole point. If you think it through, you'll find out that there's a massive set of parameters that encompass the role, but you can't possibly cover everything on a board, and you're not expected to either. So this is just a video for you to think it through. Now, in my digital toolkit and my 4-hour promotion masterclass, I break the role down. I go into it in detail in its functions and dimensions, just to help give you that broader overview, to give you some options to think through and to work through, and to blend those options, which there's a really good little mnemonic in there that's helped hundreds of officers in the toolkit to be successful on promotion boards, because they want to know on a promotion board what you know about the role. So if you were to get the first question, could you please describe your understanding of the role of an inspector, as your first question on a board, that wouldn't be unreasonable. And it's also a really good question for you to practice, to start thinking and to start making some links and ideas, so that you can be on the front foot, verbally proactive, mentally on the front foot, and ready to bat that question at the ballpark, which is what a good candidate should be able to do, someone who's prepared effectively. Now, there are some questions to get you going, and you should be able to ask yourself and build up a bank of questions, and you'll find a bank of questions, promotion board questions, in my digital interview guide in the toolkit, and there'll be questions all the way through the toolkit, and I'll also cover some of them on the promotion masterclass. Now, just a few, just to get you thinking, and there'll be different ones on the podcast that I did recently, so have a look at those. And what you find is that by listening to these free resources, looking at my free podcasts, free YouTube videos, and the free blogs that I do on my site, that there's a whole load of information out there that can sometimes be quite overwhelming. So I try and refine and distill it down into things like mnemonics, and to get you used to doing those questions, practicing those questions, thinking through and working through those questions, so that a verbal response to them occurs easy, rather than the first time you ever hear about it is on a promotion board, when you sat there and it's the first time and you get asked a tough question. If you've done a depth and breadth of research before your promotion board, it's going to be a lot easier as an experience for you. And pop across and have a look on my site, ranksuccess.co.uk, and look at some of the testimonials. There's some hundreds there now. I can't fit too many on there now, but or I certainly can't fit many more on there now. And you can get an idea of how useful this information is once you've kind of added it and blended it into your own experience and expertise. Because on a promotion board, they want to know, can you do the job? Can you do the job of an inspector? Do you have the potential to do that? So it doesn't matter whether you've done acting or temporary or not. Can you do the job of an inspector? Okay, great, you sound like you can. Will you do the job of an inspector? Are we convinced and persuaded? Have you convinced and persuaded us enough through your responses in interview that you have the potential to perform well at the rank of inspector? So what does the role mean to you? Here's a few questions just to get your head going, and then I'll come on to some of the functions of the role. What does leadership mean to you? And how will you demonstrate it in the new rank? That's a great question. How would you answer that? How would you respond to that now? If there's a bit of difficulty there, and you can't talk for, let's say, 5 minutes about that in a fairly structured way, forward facing if you can, so this is about your potential, what you will do, that just takes a little bit of time to work through and think through. So how will you demonstrate leadership? What does it mean to you in the new rank? So there's a question to get your thoughts going. What have you done to prepare yourself for this role? That's why that's a fair question. Tell us what the role's about. Because it's clear that if you cannot respond meaningfully to that, you haven't done any preparation, any meaningful preparation to enable you to talk about it. And that's all a promotion board is really, is a professional conversation that you expect to have, that the board expect to have with you, but which many candidates let themselves down with. They're unable to have that professional conversation because they haven't done the work. They've generally prepared in haste and haven't given themselves that luxury of time. So if you're listening to this and it's triggering some thoughts, good. Have a think about it. Consider downloading my digital toolkits, but certainly go and have a listen to the free podcasts, read the free blogs, look at the free YouTube videos, and build up your awareness, because it will tend to fill the gaps that you might have in your current knowledge and experience and help you out in that respect. So another question is, what have you done to make yourself a better leader? So you're probably an experienced sergeant. What are you doing for your CPD? How are you improving? How are you getting better? That's a question for you. And CPD is a massive area, not only for you, but in terms of you getting the best out of your sergeants when you're an inspector, and ensuring that your sergeants are supporting their officers in the organisation through their CPD, so that they're working towards organisational aims, but there's some scope in there for them to work towards their personal aims, career aims and aspirations, but also to achieve their own dreams in policing and aspirations and goals. So if they want to become SIOs, if they want to become dog handlers, whatever it is, you're a part of that journey, and you're making sure that your resources, your sergeants, are supporting you in the role that you're doing. So CPD is a big thing, and that's a question. What have you done to make yourself a better leader? That's fine, but you might also be concerned with how your sergeants are becoming better leaders. So we're starting to introduce that concept of you thinking more broadly, more wider, outside your team, thinking about the performance of the organisation, the people within it, and there's a whole blogs I've done around strategic thinking, and that's important because when you think about preparing for a promotion board, and certainly for an inspector, there's going to be a strategic angle to that, whether that's you covering it in your verbal responses or the board or panel asking it to you in terms of questions for the interview and expecting that level of response. It may also feature in briefings where you're asked to do partnership briefings or stakeholder briefings, and you're expected to cover those strategic issues. So now is the time to prepare for that, because otherwise it's too overwhelming, it's too much in too short a period of time, and then you'll have uncertainty, worries, fears and concerns, all of which are natural, but which reflect the fact that you haven't prepared when you had the opportunity to do so now. So you'll find blogs on my site around this issue, around I think one of them's called 5 Reasons Why Sergeants Fail to Make Inspector. So that covers some of the issues, and there's another one on thinking strategically. So if you look at my blog, you'll find that as well. And one of the things on there that kind of helps you correlate, if you like, and bring together and to refine and distill some of the issues are, what are you going to be thinking about? This is about the role, but the role encompasses a whole load of stuff. So you can ask questions, anything. What do you think about PCCs and mayors? How do you think that affects policing? Do you believe there's a politicisation of policing? What are your thoughts around that? What do you think around, the projects by the National Police Chiefs Council at the moment that are ongoing? Do you know anything about them? Do you know how the National Police Chiefs Council portfolios are supporting policing? What's the College of Policing doing at the moment? How is that helping you? How is it helping your teams? Because it's the head of profession of policing, so policing is a profession. What do you know about that? So things like authorised professional practice for public order, crime investigation, firearms, etc., etc. What do you know about that? Have a think about that. Partnerships, which partnerships are currently ongoing in your force? Which ones work well? Which ones need some more work? Collaboration, are you collaborating with other people, other forces, locally, nationally? And if so, in what respects? Then you've got economic issues. There's a challenge strategically around the uplift. Where is your force with that at the moment? How are you going to deal as an inspector with a large amount of people coming into the force with less experience on your teams? How will you deal with that? What kind of things would you be thinking around? What spending reviews are in place at the moment? How does that work in your mind as an inspector? Because good inspector candidates have an overview of the force financial position, even if it's just being able to talk about it for a couple of seconds. You understand whether the force is doing well, whether it's got financial strategic aims or goals, etc. Have a think about that. Budgets, what is the budget at the moment? How will you manage a budget? What are your ideas about that? Have you had any kind of development training for that? Because most people don't get development training in that unless they ask for it or unless they're in a specific role. So what do you know around that? Because you'll certainly be managing resources, money, time, people, equipment, etc. What do you know about the future? You're seeking to get promoted in a volatile, uncertain, complex and ambiguous world. What do you know about the future? Technologically, you know, in terms of digital policing, in terms of the College of Policing's report 2040. Nobody can tell the future that far ahead, but they do talk about scenarios, and some of those may be interesting to you as an inspector candidate. What is the issue around mental health? It's a giant one. How does it affect your force? What will you be doing? What will you be thinking around that? Repeat demand, what's being done in your force around that? Because that all links to performance. Organised crime is a big one, so we talk about some of the things on the horizon or things that will always be there. So, you know, terrorism, serious crime, the technological kind of developments, and generally policing is always behind the curve on that. Public scrutiny, expectations, resourcing and funding is always an issue, so that financial overview is helpful for you. And the changing demographics, what do you know about the communities in your force? What are their needs? Where are they? Who are the hard to reach or hard to hear communities? How do you know that? Where did you get that information from? So you're starting to build up this massive overview. You know, on the technological side, you've got online crime, social media, data sharing, all those kind of issues. Then you've got hate crime, equality. I've written 3 blogs on diversity, equality and inclusion because there are some forces that are introducing you know, diversity, equality and inclusion promotion boards before the main promotion boards. So I think that's Kent. Have a read of the blog and see what you think. Offender rehabilitation, restorative justice, where's your force on that with integrated offender management, etc. And then the environment, what's the environment like overall? So your PEEL reports give you a good snapshot, and I've done some videos and blogs on those, give you, as a promotion candidate, a great overview. And you can start to kind of pick up on these issues around supporting the well-being of your teams, what needs to be done in relation to that, what will you do? So there's this massive amount of work that you can choose to do now. And when people send me testimonials, and you can have a look at my site and have a look at them, I had one recently this week where people have kind of done exactly what I'm kind of suggesting to you now. Do the work, perform well on a promotion board. So understanding all the elements and components that kind of play out as an inspector, that you need to have a view of, a kind of broad arc of knowledge and information and experience. And then let's bring that all back to the role. What are the functions and dimensions of the inspector's role? Where will you find that written down? Well, you can find it on the College of Policing's website, unsurprisingly. There is a description of the role there. There's also a description of the role of sergeants on there, which is important for you to know because sergeants are part of your resources. They're how you're going to get things done through other people. They're a way of you working and delegating effectively. So, you know, what do you know about their role? What will your expectations be of your sergeants? So what we're starting is just open up the area now for you to move on and build upon your experience as an experienced sergeant, but to be able to look at that next step up and say, well, how am I going to approach this? My role includes leadership, and that is massive. It's a massive area of research, just like decision making. So in terms of leadership, your role will reflect leadership for people, performance and change. There's 3 key areas that it's a great way to think about. By the time you've had a look at the College of Policing, any job profile or role profile instructions you might have, the guidance you get given for your promotion panel, it can all be a bit overwhelming, particularly when you look at the CVF competency descriptors. So once you've done your reading phase, once you've collated that and given yourself the courtesy and the opportunity to do that, you can come back to it and look at that question again. What is the role of an inspector? What is my understanding of it now? And you can record yourself on your phone just talking about it for 5 minutes. And then you can tweak that, adapt that as you need to. But what you have got then is you've got a great response that even if you don't get asked that question, you can be verbally proactive in your own interests. You can introduce those elements and functions and dimensions of the inspector's role into your answers, into your verbal responses, into your presentation or your briefing, and make those links to where the force is wanting to be. What does good look like in the short, the medium and the longer term? That's for you to respond to, that's for you to answer. That's a question to you. Once you've done that work, it's a whole lot easier to sit in a promotion board and with a degree of confidence. And as one person said on one of the testimonials, I actually look forward to getting in the board. I actually enjoyed it in the board. Well, that's a great position to be in, but clearly that individual did the work. You will see testimonials on the site of people who smashed, that's a word that lots of people use, smashed their promotion board. People who get contacted after the promotion board by the panel members or one of the panel members to say, well, look, well done. How did you prepare? Because you came in and said exactly what you wanted to say, and it was clear you were confident, you delivered it well. How did you prepare? And all of my customers, all of the people that you'll read on my testimonials have in common with each other the fact they've either attended a promotion masterclass, downloaded my promotion video or toolkits, but they've used my resources, and many of which are free. There's more information now out there from this patchwork of information that I'm laying out than you can shake a stick at. So really it's all about what you will do, which incidentally is one of the questions on a board. If you imagine going in, sitting down, and they say to you, good morning, if we give you these inspector pips, what will you do with them? And that's a great way of you thinking and preparing. So together with my podcast, hopefully this has triggered and provoked some thinking around the issues and the role. What will you say when you get asked that question? What is the role of an inspector? Well, whatever your response is, you've got some options now. I wish you all the very best, and I'll be back with another video shortly. Until then, take care and stay safe.